We have all experienced this moment wherein you create the form and you load in the browser, everything is working perfectly fine, and then when you fill in the details, you click submit, then you realize that no data is actually being sent to the server. At that point, most people assume that the problem is with the server, but the real issue is almost always the HTML form in itself. In this video, I will show you exactly how forms collect data, how that data is being sent to the server, and why attributes like name, method, and action are non-negotiable. Stay till the end because once this clicks in, HTML forms will stop feeling confusing forever for you. Let's get started. Segment 2. The form element. The form element is used to create an HTML form for user input. And it's written like this. Alright, inside the form elements, you can have things like text fields, radio buttons, checkbox, submit buttons, basically everything related to a user input. Just like a table element, the form element itself is not visible in the browser. Segment 3. How form data is sent, action and method. Basically, there are two attributes that decide what happens when a form is submitted. First, action. The action attribute defines where the data is sent. So for instance, when a user wants to send the data once the form is filled, these action attributes decide where the data is supposed to be sent. For instance, let's say I have a second page right now over here, which will be success.html. So once I enter the name success.html, whenever the user fill the form and hit the submit, it will take my page to the success.html web page. Second, method. The method attribute defines how the data are sent. There are two main methods, get and post. And it's written like this. Segment 4. Get method. Now let's look at the get method. Get method is used when you are requesting information from the server. You are not changing anything in the back end. You are just asking for the data from the back end. Think of it like a Google search bar. Whenever you type something in the search bar, it changes the page for you, but nothing is actually saved. Let me show you a live code example. Now notice a few important things here. First, the method get. Second, the input has a name attribute, and that name attribute is what becomes part of the URL. And when I submit this form, the browser builds a query string using name value pairs. So let us save this file and open it in the browser. And once we refresh it, you'll notice that the form has a glass tile design. That's just CSS for visual clarity. We are not discussing CSS yet, so focus only on HTML structure and behavior. I will show you how to create this glass morphism design later when we cover CSS. So let's try searching something up over here. Let's search for Apple. And once I hit search, you'll notice that in the URL, you'll be able to see the key and the value pair. The key is the search, which is defined from the name search, and the value is the value that I typed in the search box. Segment 5. Post method. Now let's talk about post. Post is used when you are sending the data to the server to be saved, processed, or stored. This includes examples like logging in, registering, contact forms, or uploading files. So let me show you a live code example. So let me save and refresh this page. So like I said earlier, this looks similar to the get method, but the method that we have used over here is post, and it changes everything. When this particular form is submitted, the data goes directly to the request body. The URL stays clean, and the data is not visible in the address bar. So let us try this right now. So when we add the username, let's say, and the password, and we hit register, you'll notice that no data are provided in the URL. That's why post is required for sensitive data. Segment 6. The input element. The most commonly used form element is input. An input element behaves differently depending on its type attribute. Let me give you a few examples of an input type. So when I save this code and refresh my page, you'll notice that the input type text is a single line text. The input type radio is one option only, which means that it's usually used whenever you are selecting a gender, whether it's male or female. The input type checkbox is used whenever you are selecting a multiple options. And the input type button is usually a clickable button. And the input type submit is used to submit the form. Same tag, different behavior. And this is where many beginners get confused. Now there's something called text area, and we use this text area when we need a longer text input. Let me show you an example. Let me save this file and refresh the page. Now as you can see that I have a text area with a column of 30 and the rows of 10, giving me a wider space in order to write my message. Segment 7, labels and accessibility. Now let me show you an example of a common mistake that a student makes. Now as you can see that visually it looks perfectly fine, but from an HTML and accessibility perspective, this is incorrect. A P tag, which we have used here for the first name, this P tag is just for a paragraph of a text. It has no relationship with an input type, as you can see over here. The right way to do this is actually, instead of using a P tag, you need to use a label tag. Let me show you how it's done. Now let's save this file and refresh the page. The 4 attribute of the label must match the ID of an input. Because of this connection, screen readers work correctly, and clicking the label focuses the input type, and this makes assistive technology understand the form structure. Segment 8, radio buttons. Now let me show you how to create a radio button in your form. Okay, now let us save this file and refresh the browser. Now as you can see that the radio buttons only allow one choice. I can either select HTML or CSS or JavaScript. The critical rule is that all radio buttons in the group must share the same name, just like we have done it over here, the same name given as the language. If the name is different, the browser will allow multiple selection. Let us give it a try. Let us change this to CSS and let us change this to Java, for instance. Save this, refresh, and as you can see, I can have multiple selection. So it's actually defeating the purpose of creating a radio button. Therefore, you should have the same name for all of them so that it can serve the radio button purpose. Refresh, and as you can see, it's back to normal. Only one selection at one time. Segment 9, checkboxes. Whenever you want to make a 0 or multiple selection, that's where checkboxes come in place. They are perfect preferences for selecting hobbies, skills, or other options. The only change that you need to make in your code is you need to change the type from radio to checkbox. Let us give it a try. Save it and refresh. And as you can see that, now I can have a multiple selection. Quite powerful, right? Segment 10, most common student mistake. This is one of the common area where student form completely break. Let me show you an example. The only mistake that they made was they forget to mention the name attribute. Whenever a user forget to mention the name attribute in the form, the browser ignores the form during the submission. So the correct way to do this is providing a name attribute, and let's say fname. So doing this, what it will do is the browser will send the data as key value pairs. So the name will be the key, and whatever the user type is going to be the value that will be submitted. Now, if this explanation is helping you understand HTML forms better, make sure you subscribe to this channel. This channel breaks web development down exactly the way it's taught at the university. Segment 11, fill set and legend. Now, in order to keep forms organized, we used fill set to group related inputs and legend to group the title. Let me show you an example. Let us save this file and refresh the web page. Without the fill set and legend, this is how our form looks like. Let me use the fill set and legend now. Let me save this file and then refresh my browser. And there you go, this is how it looks like when you use fill set and legend. So as you can see that the fill set visually groups inputs, legend provides context so user instantly understand the section. Segment 12, HTML5 form validation. HTML5 gives us built-in validation without the use of JavaScript. Let me show you some examples. The first is required. Let me show you what does the required do. Required makes a field mandatory. So when the user submits the form without filling in the details such as full name and hit submit, it will give a pop-up saying that you need to fill in these details. Now that we have learned everything, let me structure a form for you so that we can see the template of the form how it looks in the browser. Now let me save this file and refresh my page. And this is how you can see that I have grouped all that we have learned today in a form, and this is the template of the form that we have designed. It looks interactive and quite appealing as a user experience. Awesome work guys, you now know how to use all the HTML input types and organize forms using fillset and legend, and also validate forms without the use of JavaScript. As we all know that forms are used everywhere, from contact pages to e-commerce checkouts. That's why it's necessary for us to understand forms clearly. If you have learned something new, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell icon. In the next chapter, we'll explore multimedia elements and iframes. So take a quick stretch and keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next one.